the water's cold and it's pretty hard to get motivated. You'll be getting out of your car, there'll be frost on your car, there'll be frost on your board bag if it's on top of your car. It's not very conducive to going out and getting some waves, but you can get better waves in winter for sure. You can get better sets, cleaner waves, the winds can be better, there can be less people out. It can be pretty fun out there if you can brave the cold. So that's half the battle is getting out in the cold. Dunedin, we're pretty lucky. We get some pretty awesome wildlife while you're surfing. So it's not only surfing, you get to see some really cool stuff like albatrosses and sea lions and dolphins, and yeah, it's all pretty sweet out there.
And I just think about the water itself as well, and it makes me think of the athletes that have ice baths to relieve tension in their muscles and relieve headaches, that type of thing. Surely there's some benefits to that as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, while it's not so nice having a brain freeze headache potentially from the cold water, it does definitely help release some tension in your muscles and do a bit of that ice water therapy if you like.
I guess the most simple thing is you need a decent wetty, right? So can you talk us through the different styles? Because I mean, you can get a decent wetty, but it could be the wrong one. So what do we look for through winter?
I'm talking about full steamer suits, so that's full arm, long legged. And they're the ones you're going to get the most warmth out of, for sure.
I guess with the thicknesses, I know when I was first looking at wetsuits, I was just confused because there's a whole bunch of numbers. One of the first things that I learned was you get the numbers, you get the 3.2, you get the 4.3 or 5.4. It's crazy. What do the numbers mean? The first number is always the core. That's the thickness of the neoprene of the core. And then the second is the extremities, so your arms and legs. So that's a quick, easy way to navigate your way through all these crazy numbers that you find on wetsuits. There's a few other kind of hidden things that are not so easy to find in the names. So can you talk to us about why you'd want stretch and why you'd want liners in a wetty?
Yeah, definitely. So I mean, touching on that thickness, when you get a thick wetsuit on, say a 4.3, down here a 4.3 is marginal if it's going to be warm enough through winter. 5.4 for me is more what I prefer because I'm a bit of a wuss, and I like to be warm when I'm out there. So I go full noise, the thickest wetsuit I can get, and that is 5.4. So it's 5 millimeters here and then 4 millimeters on the arms and legs. The downside to that is that all that neoprene is fighting against you when you're paddling. So having a nice neoprene that stretches with you, that can really help with a lot of your surfing. Yeah, I mean, if you look at this one here, so this is the suit that I surf in. A really nice neoprene has a lot of stretch in it, and so that means it's going to work really well when you're paddling, and so it's going to fight against you less, even though you've got all of that bulk on you. It's going to help a lot. Fit is everything. Yep. With the wetsuit, fit is everything. You want the wetsuit to fit you in the shop, but you also want it to fit you about 2 or 3 months down the track as well. That means when you're trying it on the shop, it's going to feel really tight, like too small tight almost. I mean, for reference, I'm 6 foot and I'm about 70 kgs or so. I'm built like a beanstalk, and I fit a Quicksilver medium, is generally my size, and that's the best fit for me. Really tight when I get a new suit. I can barely kind of get into it. It's really hard to get into, but they do stretch. Any neoprene product will stretch over time, and so you want it to fit you down the track as well as in the store as well. So yeah, avoid getting a too big wetsuit. Even though it might feel more comfortable in the shop, it will just flush water through and it won't do its job.
And there's a couple of different wetsuit brands which fit a bit differently as well. That's something just to keep in mind. So the Quicksilver or Roxy is a bit taller and skinnier for fitting. And then the O'Neill that we have here as well is just a bit broader. So if you find yourself with a wetsuit that's just a bit broad across the shoulders, try Quickie or Roxy, and then vice versa, go the other way if you don't quite have enough height.
I mean, if you've got a wetty and you're just starting out in Auckland, I'm assuming that you're probably going to be moving around a lot in the white water. You're going to be pretty active. I'd probably stick with a 3.2. However, if you're prone to be cold, potentially go for a 4.3. Go for a 4.3 just because if you can be comfortable, you can spend time in the water. You're not going to be worrying about getting cold. So a 4.3 might be the go for winter. And then as summer comes around, if it's warm enough, you can transition to board shorts and stuff like that, and just go from there. But kind of it'll be down to how cold you find yourself. 3.2 steamer would be a good one. 4.3, you might find it easier to get a back zip. Back zips tend to be a lot easier to get in and out of, and if you're just starting out, it can be a lot of things to get your head around, and getting in and out of your wetsuit is one less thing to get your head around. So getting a back zip makes things easier. So yeah, that would be my recommendation.
So I guess, yeah, the hoods, the booties, gloves, they're all things that can help keep that wetsuit a bit warmer, right? And I guess there's a few wee tricks to actually maintaining these things so you can actually go home with them. I saw a mate of mine, he ended one of his rides with surfs with a one booty. So there's a trick to actually chuck that under the wetsuit, not on top. And if you're on top, it's just going to catch all the water, and the water's going to take that booty away. So there's a wee trick there to don't make the same mistake that I saw.
Yeah, it definitely helps. A hood definitely helps. Keep the water out, keep them warm. The main thing that is recommended is have some kind of earplug or surfer's earplug when you go out. Hoods, you can still get water flushing through there, and you still get cold water in your ear. And it's all about your ear growing closes up basically as it gets colder and more cold water. So a hood, while it can help, definitely would recommend keep going with the earplugs and stuff like that. Yeah, if you suspect you might have surface air, go talk to the experts. Go talk to your GP because it's no fun. It's no fun at all. So yeah, try and keep that cold water out of your ears as much as possible. I mean, if you go for a 3 mil, it's obviously not going to be as warm as a 5 mil thick boot. You will get way better board feel though, so you'll be able to feel what the board is doing underneath you a lot more and have way more feedback and control over the board. Personally, again, I'm a wuss. I go for a 5 mil and try and keep my feet as warm as possible. Downside to that is that I have a bit of a marshmallow effect on the bottom of my board. But yeah, it comes down to what you prefer. Is if you prefer to have board feel, go for a 3 mil. If you prefer to have warm feet, go for a 5 mil. That's for Dunedin anyway. We have pretty cold water. Yeah, I mean, don't do what I do every now and again and accidentally leave it in your car overnight, because then it's really cold in the morning when you try and go surfing. Yeah, turn it inside out is the first step. So turn it inside out, rinse it with fresh water, and then hang it up to dry somewhere out of the sun. The sun will damage your wetsuit, so you want to keep it out of the sun as much as possible. Weirdly, I found a trick the other day. I put the dehumidifier in my little bathroom and then closed the door and ran that overnight, and that dried out the wetsuit really well. You just want to avoid heat. You don't want to put it near any heaters. That's not going to be friendly to it. Yeah, sunlight and heaters, I don't know, it's a tricky one. If you have a wetsuit with a liner, that will help it dry a little bit quicker. So yeah, if you look at these wetsuits here, these linings, while they make you warmer, they also help it dry faster as well. So that's when you turn it inside out, let it dry faster, and then when you go surfing, turn it the right way in again, and then you're hopping into a dry suit, even though that what was the inside when you turn it inside out, now is the outside is wet. It'll at least be dry to get into, and that helps a lot.
I guess you can see on this wetsuit here, there's no actual back zip on it. So while the back zips are really easy to get into, a chest zip, which is actually hidden on this one because it's inside out, is a lot more stretchy. So you're actually able to stretch out that back piece as well, so you don't have that zip. Yeah, back zip, way easier to get into. Chest zip, it's going to allow for a lot more stretch. So while you're surfing, you're going to have a lot more mobility. So there's always that combat between ease and warmth and that stretch as well. When you look at your board as well, if you go for a longer soft top board, if you're just getting into it, it'll definitely make standing up and getting to that first part of surfing on the wave a lot easier. Those are a bit more advanced. They look at stepping up to a size. Can you talk to more about that?
Yeah, so on boards, I mean, when you're starting out, a bigger board is your friend, for sure. I mean, you're going to be paddling around and not being catching any waves or being able to progress at all if you have a board that's too small for you. So bigger board is definitely your friend if you're just starting out. As you progress and get better, you can move to smaller board. The advantages being is that they become more nimble. You can turn them, you can duck them under waves better, and eventually you end up with a pretty high performance board that you can paddle out really easily, but also get into a lot of waves. Going to those kind of boards for sure. Waxes change with the water temperature, so you can use a different wax for different water temperatures. And I'll try and do this quickly. Basically, if you find a wax and you want to know where it goes, it will give you a water temperature on the end of it. So it will tell you what water temps it's recommended for, and then just Google up what water temp is in your area and then match that with the wax. That's probably the easiest, quickest way to do it. Down in Dunedin, our water temp gets all the way down to 9 degrees. So we're using the coldest one that we can get, which is below 15 degrees, which is the blue Sticky Johnson, for example. Cool is 14 to 20 degrees water temp. So just bear in mind what water temps you've got in your area, and then choose the wax to suit.
Get a good wax comb as well, just to refresh them, through winter, the cold wax, 5 to 7 rides, you want to be refreshing it and just making sure you're sticking to your board.
And come summertime, you'll want to use that wax comb to scrape off that soft wax, because that soft wax you're using for the winter, that's going to melt right off when it gets hotter. So you don't want to have that mess, that wax getting everywhere. So scrape off the soft wax before it gets too hot.
Let's give us some personal tips, man. What's going to make things easier, and what's something that's not so well known, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, one of the struggles is trying to keep the beach at the beach and not in your car or at home or in the shower or wherever. Keeping the beach at the beach is pretty tricky. The best system I've come up with is I've got a big change tub, or change mat works too. And then as I get to the car, I'll have some old drink bottles that I've got filled up with water. If I can, I'll try and keep them warm. So I'm squirting warm water, and I'll just kind of wash off each foot as I step into the tub. And that means that I've got a little clean zone that I can change out of my wetsuit into. Keeps all the dirt off it, keeps all the sand off it. And it just makes cleaning out your wetsuit and your booties a lot easier, and keeps all the sand out of your car too.
I know you can definitely have a good thermos to have some warm water in. You can chuck some hot water in it. Make sure you chuck a little bit of cold water in with it, because these guys do keep it warm, right? You do not want to pour boiling water on yourself.
No, we don't want you getting burnt. So make sure it's the temperature that you can handle, and not straight from a kettle, if you like. Out of the tap's probably a bit safer. And then that way you can have some hot water to pour down your wetty as you get out of the water. And that helps getting changed a little bit more palatable, especially if there's southerly blowing down here.
I think it's probably just checking out some weather sites and finding out where you want to be surfing, right, and see what the surf's actually doing. It's probably a good one to do.
It's one of the hardest things when you're learning to surf, is trying to figure out where, what. You look at a beach and you go, it looks like a beach, that's got waves, that should be good, right? Unfortunately, it's not quite so simple. So the best thing you can do, go talk to some locals, your local shop, or some friends or something like that that surf, and they can help you find some spots. There are a couple of websites that will give you condition reports as well. I've definitely been there. I've at one point been almost unable to get back into my car because I can't use the keys, which was quite exciting. Just try and warm up your hands as much as you can. Put them in your armpits if you like. That can warm them up a bit. If you have that warm water on hand, that makes it so much easier. And then that lets you get your booties off and get your gloves off as well. It definitely helps a lot. If you have booties that have been tricky, you can try and filling them with some of that hot water that you've got with you in the car, and that can help just kind of almost push them off with water pressure, if you like. Can be quite handy.
Yeah, thanks guys.
Yeah, thank you so much for engaging. It's been awesome.
See you out there.